Members of the public are challenging the National Energy Regulator's plan to register all solar electricity panels and backup power generators. Lobby group, the Energy Expert Coalition, has launched a website for consumers to send their comments on the draft rules to Nersa. Let's talk more about this. We're joined by mining and energy advisor Ted Blom. Ted, it's great to speak to you tonight. Firstly, Nersa seems to have its hand full with just the initial feedback from consumers this far who are simply not impressed.
Absolutely. I think when I left my office this afternoon, we had over 20,000 comments and signatures to the PDP process, and it's picking up speed. So people are not impressed, and I think it's to do with the fact that the draft regulations have been cast far too wide. I mean, I think if one sits back and has a look at it, it was bound to evoke a strong criticism.
What is your understanding of the intention that Nersa has in mind by putting this legislation out there in terms of what exactly they're requiring ordinary consumers to now declare to government essentially?
Okay, so it would have been normal for Nersa to want people to register their units if they were going to be connected to the grid. And that would be the objective, to ensure that there's stability on the grid. However, Nersa is asking you and me to register not goods, not items that are connected, but also items that are not intended to be connected to the grid. And that's where really the problem exists. As we all know, registration is a precursor to licensing, and licensing is just another form of tax. And
the one thing that you're also saying is that you feel that this is an attack on independent power producers in this country.
Well, certainly for the households, it seems to be a very big bazooka onto a mosquito, in the sense that the amount of instability or impact that they can have on the grid is really minimal. I mean, it's very, very small. And we're talking about units of less than 1 megawatt. So under their definitions, even a cell phone solar battery charger has to be registered, and that's just plainly absurd. So I think Nersa needs to go back to the drawing board and think it through.
People have until the end of this month to make their submissions. How strong are you hoping that those submissions will be in terms of the feedback that they now send back to the energy regulator?
So our previous campaign, which we ran against the massive tariff increases that Eskom is proposing, drew close on 200,000 signatures, and we're using the same database, so we anticipate that we'll get a similar amount of response. Perhaps not quite as many, because some people don't have generators and solar panels. So but in that ballpark, yeah. But
very plainly for us, tell us what you think is really at stake for consumers here, because in the same breath, we also have a number of RDP houses that have been built for people that use solar paneling. So is the expectation that those solar panels would be then have to be registered too?
Absolutely. In terms of the current regulations and the definitions, everybody has to register, whether it's in the townships or whether it's in the leafy suburbs. And irrespective of the size of your panels, you have to register. And that's the problem with the legislation. It's too wide.
But does it specifically have a cost added to it? I mean, does that registration process automatically mean that people will have to fork out extra money?
So as it currently stands, you firstly have to apply to your distributor, whether it's a municipality or Eskom, for an application to join or to register your generator or panel. And then secondly, once you've been given permission by your distributor, they will then give you a quotation should you want to join the grid, and you then have to pay for that quotation. It's a connection fee quotation, and historically those have really been absurd. I mean, I think one of the big solar farms was faced with a bill of hundreds of millions for something that should have been done for under 10 million. And if we have the same behavior by other distributors, I mean, it would become a prohibitive exercise in terms of just the connection fees. Then on top of that, you and I know the state, they ask you to register, then they tell you you have to have a license, which is true in this case, and with license goes license fees. You and I, it's no use having a license for free. Somebody's got to police that license, and that comes with a cost. So whilst the current drafts don't make mention of an amount, you can bet your bottom dollar that that's coming. So,
Where can people go in order to get more information and also to ensure that the broader general public is part of this conversation?
Okay, so we've put a website up. It's eeco.coza, and that will make provision for people to register their comments, and they're free to put down whatever they like, whether they're pro the situation or against the situation. 99% of the people so far have been anti the regulations, and primarily because they feel that the instances where they have put up panels, they've already paid the tax on those panels in form of VAT, and they don't see why they should now have to repay any fees on that. But they can go to our eco.coza website.
Well, it's certainly something worth looking into, especially if you already have solar panels or generators are looking to get them, as that legislation there is set to change. So whether you're pro or against it, your feedback is open until the end of May. Ted Blom from Mining and Energy Advisors.